They're insiders gambling. For sure I do. I totally get it. Little hypocritical if they're going to take the gambling money. Not really. We take restaurant money. My boss doesn't want me getting heart disease from everything I eat. There's a, you know what I mean? There are differences in these things. For sure there is. Because you'd want to use it for your own good. One of these insiders is going to get busted using a family member to place wagers. You just wait. That will happen. For sure it will happen. I love this. And I love how stringent this is. And I think it should be difficult for people to gamble, or impossible for people to gamble if you work inside these sports, in and around. Are we going to have to do that with politicians in the stock market too, though?
It's cool when you get up and you feel instantly connected to the world.
The Stan Sperry Show.
I don't know what it is. I got them on every morning.
On Rock 106.9.
By the end of the hour, I'll get you into Wizards of Winter. That show's Friday, December 1st. Canton Palace Theater. You can grab tickets at cantonpalacetheater.com or win your way in with me at 7:45 this morning. Under an hour now to get those tickets passed out. So we had Veterans Day over the weekend, Saturday, November 11th. Thank you to everybody who has served or is currently serving. We appreciate you. And it kind of feels like this day is starting to take a back seat, like a lot of older traditions and time-honored holidays or days of, honor or remembrance even. Like, I don't mean to conflate these two things or mix them two together, but man, it kind of turns out that never forget really isn't going to be part of us anymore, huh? It turns out that never forget thing isn't really like panning out. But it does kind of seem like Veterans Day isn't as highlighted as I remember it being when I was a kid, or even when I got into this industry as a broadcaster. And that's a bummer. And a stain on our house, if we're honest. You know, everybody talks about freedom and what they're allowed to do because of it, while doing a great job of forgetting on how we were able to do it. We have an idea of this country, and that idea needs defense. All you have to do is look at the headlines out there right now, and that kind of proves that to be true. And it's disheartening to see it kind of fall by the wayside. Now, I'm not shocked. I told you 12 years ago, if not longer, get ready. 4th of July will be considered to be one of the worst things you can do. You're awful if you celebrate it because of this, this country's history and a lot of that. And sure enough, as the 4th of July comes up, we did hear about that over the last couple of years. We have heard. And Veterans Day feels like that seems uneven for me. I don't know if I love that. There's also been a sentiment of it's in vogue to not like the national. And now Vince McMahon and the WWE took it a step further over the weekend. You saw the NFL with their, their honor of the troops thing this weekend. It was kind of like, and you were kind of starting to walk that back a little bit because, and say in the middle of your season, it's like, oh, geez, what do we do? What do we do? Please, I don't want to piss anybody off. What do we do? Unpolitical. People in our country stand for. Represents how much of what it truly means to those who fought for your freedom of the United States and those who live in it today. Quote, it makes you have a great trying to accomplish. I don't think it has any what it means to your country. Quote, and people need to start speaking like this again. We live in the greatest country in the world, and freedom of speech is important whether or not you agree. And what that I think people forget about Veterans Day, McMahon said, what it truly means to our country. I think people these days sort of take for granted some of the things, important things of celebrations of our country and what it truly means. Now, he'll be called a boomer, and people will say, get off my lawn, and we don't have to, and blah, blah, blah. And that is another side of freedom, too. I say it all the time, freedom is messy because your neighbor has it, too. They have the right to kind of talk about how bad this country is. They can, and what about all the hell they damn well please. You can do that. The problem is that if you are pro-country now, or if you are pro-flag now, if you're pro-veteran now, they're one of those. You know secretly what they're saying. They're putting the American flag out in front of their house or their business, and they're trying to make the people who disagree with the flag uncomfortable. They're dog whistling. No, they're not. No, they're not. They're happy they don't live in one of the 200 countries we have to go around and pass out money to every other goddamn day. That's what they're doing. That's what they're happy about. And it is starting to get a little obnoxious, the hatred of this country. You can point out where we have flaws that need to be fixed versus going all the way down the rabbit hole of this is the worst place on planet Earth. Remember Brittany Griner? Remember that one? Standing during the national anthem now after they went and got her ass. She said, yeah, I'm going to think about this differently now. Now, part of that is what? Because if she doesn't, everybody's going to scream in her face about how she isn't after what just happened. I'm sure that's part of it. It's also part of, what? I might have been a little wrong about this. If you were a man named Dan Stansbury, ain't nobody going over there to go get her ass, bro. It's the fact that she plays a professional sport is why that became a huge story and why they went and got her. I'm all about this with Vince McMahon, and I'm all about people flying the flag outside of their house. I don't think it should be a requirement or anything because, wait for it, that's anti-freedom, and I like people having the choice. But I'm done hearing about how the flag's terrible. I'm done hearing about how the 4th of July is terrible. I'm done. This place is pretty damn great. It's pretty great. Perfect? No. But I won't let perfect be the enemy of good. And since I know I'm never going to get a perfect country because, wait for it, countries are just made up of people and we're never going to get perfect people, then I'm not waiting on perfect to celebrate the fact that I live somewhere pretty damn great. Thank you to everybody who has served or is currently serving this great nation.
You know what that conniving trickery is called?
The Stansbury Show on Rock 106.9.
Rock the bank with me at 9. Get your holiday shopping done a little early with a bonus $1,000. The station has 13 keywords we're passing out. I got the first one, though. 9 a.m., we'll get that rolled out to you. Not a bad way to start Monday out. We had been talking a little Veterans Day. That was Saturday, November 11th, over the weekend there. And I brought it up because Vince McMahon and the WWE in front of their building raised, I think, what is the largest flag in the country. One of, anyway, 3,040 square foot, 76 feet wide and 40 feet tall. Good Lord, massive. McMahon says, quote, the size of it, I think it just represents how many people in our country love our armed forces, love what they have done, especially those who have given their lives. Quote, it makes you have a great feeling about our country. That's one of the things we're trying to accomplish. I don't think it has anything to do with politics or any of that. What the flag means to people and what it means, just not to our veterans and so forth, what it means to your country. Quote, we live in the greatest country in the world and freedom of speech is important whether or not you agree with that and what the flag stands for. Our soldiers have died, and those who have served in wars did that because of our country. Quote, I think people forget about Veterans Day and what it truly means. I think people these days sort of take for granted some of the things, important things, of celebrations of our country and what it truly means. He says, so I get it. You just move on and so forth, but it's important that our country doesn't move on. And what we do to remind people of what this day truly means other than a day off is so important. It causes people to stop only for a moment and think when they see the flag, they're going to stop and think about it and understand some of the joys and some of the freedoms we have in our country. McMahon, 78 years old. And I mentioned the age there because I do think there's a generational gap here in showing appreciation for your country and not. Now, I will tell you, I know this about me because I've been me my entire life. When I was younger, I probably would have been more likely to be like, want to watch me piss all these people off? And would have said something terrible. And I probably would have been more likely to be, to defend this country, this place that gave you this, and be highlighting all the negative. I would have. And that's what's happening now. I say it all the time about social media. That's the difference. Nobody gave a damn what a 16-year-old said when I was 16. Now, if a 16-year-old says something, it's a headline in the news. And 70-year-olds are yelling at 16-year-olds on social media platforms. You didn't even talk to your own grandparents, let alone another random 70-year-old. That's what's kind of nuts about it. I kind of talked about how there's a day here, but a month celebrated over here, right? And people don't like that analogy. They don't, right? Because we do have Military Appreciation Month. That's May. We'll thank Katie for that. Now, we know that, and I knew that. And I think the fact that we have that, and most people don't know what month it is, only proves my point further. This doesn't mean I'm wrong. This means I'm right. We go out to the street corner today. There I am on the corner of Fulton, just stopping cars. When's Military Appreciation Month? Don't use your phone. Are they going to know? My guess is no. Would they know that we've had the month? Sure. Maybe it's on the calendar. Maybe they know it's on the calendar. Would they know which month it was? No. But if I ask them that same question about June, baby, they're going to know for sure what that month is, aren't they? Now, I just opened a big can of worms there. Because partially why some people are going to know is because of how much they hate the month of June. Fair enough, because of what's happened. Those people exist. Let's not pretend that they don't. So fair enough, I will meet you there. But when I watch every corporation trip over themselves to highlight May as much as they are June, as a matter of fact, when I can finally watch corporations wipe their brow or no longer doing it, like, oh, thank God we're out of May, man. People don't like when you highlight how great this country is. We need to highlight for a month how bad this country has been for this group of people right here. That's the argument. Not against any one or, 6, 10 people walking around on the street today. That's not it. It's about the systems. By the way, she tells us here, and I believe she's right, doing a little crack research during the break, 1999 is when Congress approved that. That's how long it took this country to bring forth a month of celebration for its military. 1999. So when every other fringe group in the world tells you how long they've been overlooked, I think we can point to Military Appreciation Month and go, well, here's your standard, honey. Because this is how it works for the heroes of where you live. This is how long it took them. So take a number, stand in the back of the line, and we'll get to it. Right? This only proves my point more. This doesn't mean I'm wrong. This means I'm right about this. Have been right about this. But that's not the way we look at it anymore. Now, this country's always had a weird history with the people that served in the military. Born on the 4th of July didn't fall out of the sky. That movie didn't just fall out of the sky. Veterans being spit on when they got home from Vietnam and a lot of that, dude, that stuff, that's been part of our history. So taking issue with what your government does and how it exerts its force around the globe, that's always been part of who we are. And some people will tell you, and I kind of agree with this, it's kind of like that's at the very center of who we are. Questioning what's happening. Are we justified here? For me, those are questions for the people who sent them to go do what they were going to do, not the people who had to go. For me, the problem is, or the issues are, for the people who sit in their comfy offices going, well, we'll send this on this front here, we'll send this here, and then aren't there in the thick of it. The people in the thick of it, thanks for being brave. Thanks for having the balls to do what I didn't. That's how I look at that. Also, a lot of people, rightfully or wrongfully, and I think I'm in this group of people, make Veterans Day about the people who have lost their lives serving this country. Military Appreciation Month is about the military as a whole. To me, this is about the corporations. And I've told you forever, they don't give a damn about anything. Nothing but making money. And in the 1980s, Veterans Day would have been how you made the money. I told you before, when I was growing up, and chances are when you were growing up, the only thing you could get canceled for is if you were seen to be anti this country. Hanoi Jane, right? I mean, come on, right? I mean, come on. That's how you got canceled back in the day, was talking trash about this country and not recognizing the fact that you were lucky to live in a place with problems, yes, but still lucky to live here. I'm not looking to blame anybody walking around, but we need to get back to being able to openly wrap our arms around this. We need to get back. We have more conversation avenues than ever before with social media, and we have less context maybe than ever when it comes to this issue. We need to get back to, yes, we have problems, but we could have all of that country's problems, and we don't. So we're going to wave that flag in front of the house.
He's a man of many talents, but he does not have the talent for keeping quiet.
The Stansberry Show on Rock 106.9.
Welcome back to the program. I have long said I felt like social media is addictive. There's a new study out, kind of says I'm wrong. We'll talk about that. Spend a little bit of the 8 o'clock hour doing that. I'm going to get you into Wizards of Winter here in a moment. That show December 1st, Canton Palace Theater on that. Former members of TSO, Alice Cooper, Blue Oyster Cult. Now the Wizards of Winter here in Canton. We'll get you in momentarily. We were talking a little bit about Veterans Day, that over the weekend. And it kind of feels like as we go on, traditions are changing, are kind of swapping over, right? This Veterans Day felt like the day when growing up. Make sure you honor this and that. Now it's like, oh yeah, and that. And we've seen social media do this, and to a lot of different subjects, because when you can add the, well, and people love doing it. I don't even think people are anti anything. I think they're anti the people they see being pro something else, right? So if they see somebody who is like pro putting the flag out in front of their house, well, I don't like that person. And they voted that way, so now I have to hate everything they do, right? And I think a lot of that happens. We were talking about it because Vince McMahon and the WWE put up one of the biggest flags in the country. It's like 3,040 feet. Do I have that right? Hold on, I have it pulled up. I still have the 2003. They work with organizations like the USO, Hire Heroes USA, and the National Medal of Freedom Museum. They're one of the organizations that's pretty good about it. And I feel like myself and every other organization, not that I'm an organization, I'm a person, but I feel like myself, every other person, and most other organizations could do a better job of highlighting this. Remembering, showing appreciation for it. Now, showing appreciation these days makes you a sucker. What are you, bootlicking? Are you gonna lick the boots? Right? Like that's kind of, it's all turned into that now. Because it's not about the subject, it's about owning the other person, owning the person on the other side of the subject. That's what everything's about now, which is why it's obnoxious. Then we brought up Military Appreciation Month because, I brought up the whole June thing as a month and Veterans Day, right? And a lot of veterans have that stance, and I understand it. For sure I do. So people had mentioned Military Appreciation Month, that's May, and I said, okay, well, great. Do people know when that is? Because they know what June is. Because all the corporations make sure you know. Don't drag us, super active, young, liberal, and gay people. Don't drag us. We're with you. That's what the advertising, that's what the marketing all that month is. Living in fear of being the victim of the timeline. That's what that is. It's fine, I get it. I would like to see, I'm fine with June. I'm not looking to erase June. I'm not. Do whatever you gotta do. You know what I mean? Walk around outside, be proud, whatever the hell it is. Who the hell even knows anymore? Do whatever you gotta do. I don't give a damn. I would like to see us get that month, May, or even Veterans Day, at that level again. Big country. A lot of days, a lot of months. We got time. We can do two things at once. Doesn't have to be this or that. Well, it does now, because that's how conversations happen. Yeah. Because if you're pro this, you must be anti all of that over there, which isn't the reality of most people. It's just not. Most people, again, kind of go along. It's like, well, did I kind of, I think they're right on that, and they're right on that, and this is right on that, but that ain't right about this. That's who most people are. We've told you before, the data's been run. When people go into the voting booth, they vote on 3 things maximum. The number 1 thing outweighs number 2 and 3 combined for most people. Meaning what? They vote on 1 damn thing. It's a subject and a half at most times. That's it. That's it. Maybe a right to choose about this, maybe a locking down of a border on that, or maybe that's what it is. People pick kind of like one thing and they kind of run with it. I'm not looking to erase anybody else's month. I'm not out to tell anybody they shouldn't have a month. I'm out to say, dude, we are highlighting things without highlighting some other things as much as we used to. And I'm not sure that's the trade I want to make. You want to trade months that we pay attention to? Fine, then get rid of macaroni and cheese month or whatever the hell it is that happens, and let's keep the veterans, let's keep the military kind of front and center there. Front and center. Now, I know what is happening here a little bit, and so do you. If this country was in an actual conflict that you were hearing about constantly, more people would be talking about the veterans over the weekend. That's just human nature. Whatever's on the TV, that's what people are like, this is a big deal. Want some proof? Show me a Ukraine flag and a bio today. I beg you. They're hard to find now. Hard to find that Ukrainian flag in the bios today. Because people are moved on to Israel and Gaza. Whatever's on the TV, baby, that's what they're paying attention to. And that's what they're talking about. And that's what they're saying is the biggest problem in the world. And that's why some people would like to see corporations getting back to backing the veterans, because that's how people are going to pay attention to it. I don't think that's crazy to ask that. My dad served. He was in the Air Force. My dad had what some of those guys in Save 22 told me, and I never really would have thought about it this way, but my dad had what they call survivor's guilt. He didn't like talking about his military service a whole lot. He didn't spend a lot of time talking to us about it. Occasionally a guy would show up at the house, middle of the night, pound on the door, and you'd have to ask, who's that? It's a guy I served with. He's going through it. He felt guilty over the fact that he was able to go over there, do what he had to do his job, get out, and he wasn't necessarily inflicted with a lot of what, soldiers on the ground kind of come home with. Or God forbid anything else, right? I probably shouldn't have made that distinction, but he was loading up airplanes all day. And so he would tell you, he's like, Dan, we would open the door of the plane and I would see some stuff going down, and then we'd shut the door of the plane, then we'd take off. That was it. He's like, I didn't really go through what a lot of people went through. And he felt guilty about it. So he didn't really talk about it a whole lot. That's a struggle in its own right. 22 veterans a day commit suicide. That's where Save 22 comes from, for crying out loud. We don't talk about that enough. I'm sorry, we don't. We hear about the suicide rates of certain professions, certain this, certain that. When it kind of comes to this, it's kind of like, dude, don't talk about that a whole lot. That makes people feel uncomfortable, and it makes them realize, dude, that they kind of waste their freedom by just watching Friends all day. So, don't talk about that a whole lot. That's kind of what happens. And, that ain't great. It's not. I'm sorry. This country has its problems, for sure they do, but they don't have them because of veterans. And you may not like everything the military has decided to do around the world. Great, neither do I. I've told you before, what do you think? America's just been the good guy 100% of the time? I mean, come on. But I don't blame the people lacing up the boots for that. I blame the people campaigning in a basement for that. I blame the politician for that. I shouldn't have made it about one politician, but that guy's really starting to piss me off. So there it is. That's who I blame for that. I don't blame the Fed. Much like when this company doesn't do something right, I don't blame me. And I hope that you don't blame me. It's the company. I'm just the person executing what the company's asked me to do. Like you are where you work, and then extrapolate it out into the subject it is that we're talking about. And that's kind of how I view that. I've always said I've never been the kind of guy who would fly a flag outside of my house. Just never really thought about it one way or the other like that. It's like, I'm not really... But when I see how much anti-American rhetoric there is flooding through the streets now, it makes me want to put one outside today. I swear to God it does. Because it has to start somewhere. The man in the mirror might be the best place to go, right? It might be. Wizards of Winter, December 1st, Canton Palace Theater. Let's get caller 12 in right now. 330-450-7625 or toll free at 800-243-7625 on those Wizards of Winter tickets. And we'll talk to Scott from waitingfornextyear.com about Victory Monday next on The Stansberry Show.
The Stansberry Show on Rock 106.9.
I apologize. We were unable to give away those Wizards of Winter tickets. I had a phone issue, but I have resolved it in the studio, so we will get those passed out by the end of this hour. I'm sorry to everybody that called in, but I did not give those tickets away. We were having a little bit of a phone issue, which I was worried was going to negatively affect being able to talk to Scott, the co-founder of waitingfornextyear.com, who joins us every Monday at 8 o'clock on the program. But we got that phone issue resolved before he had called in. Scott, my man, how are you this morning?
Good, oh man. I'll be your giveaway.
There it is. Just giving away the free knowledge is what we're doing here. And Scott can be found on X at WFNY Scott.